Good evening and welcome to the County of Brant's Planning and Development Committee meeting. Tonight's meeting is an open public meeting as required by the Planning Act. This meeting is being held in council chambers at 7 Broadway Street West in Paris and is also live streamed on the county's YouTube channel. Agenda of the meeting can be found on the council committee's agendas, meetings, and minutes page on the county's website at thebrant.ca. Present here tonight are members of council, Deputy Clerk Briar Allison, Director of Development Planning Matt Vaughn, and a number of planners and applicants as well. The public meeting component of this meeting is for information and discussion purposes only, and no decisions will be made. Council will make a decision on these matters at council meeting to be held on March the 12th, 2024. So, attendance has been taken. Okay. Could we have a mover and seconder for the agenda? Moved by Councillor Pierce, second by Lucas Oakley. Is there any changes to the agenda? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor? Passed. Okay. Is there any declarations of pecuniary interest tonight? Okay. Seeing none. Do we have any delegations, petitions, and presentations? None? Okay. Thanks very much. Do we have a mover for the adoption of the minutes from the previous meeting? Moved by Councillor Oakley, second by Councillor Bell. So, all those in favor? Okay, that is passed. Business arising from the minutes, do we have any? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? Passed. So we have a public hearing today under Section 11 of the County of Brant Telecommunications Tower Protocol, 71C2 4-23HH 525 Scenic Road. And Helena, would you like to come forward and speak? And we just...
Scary. It's like that's interesting. Yeah. I don't know if that was me. I really don't think it was.
I could jump ahead and ask for a mover and seconder.
Why not take too long? That's 30% already. Just tell people to stand by, I guess.
Okay, if you could just stand by for a minute. We're almost there.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
We've got the information in our package,
Right.
so I'm not sure.
We could just go right to questions of clarification for it.
I'll leave it up to you, Mr. Chair, but I'm just thinking that we've got
Yeah.
the information in there rather than...
Is there any questions of clarification from the council? If everybody's read the package, or would everybody like to wait for the presentation? Okay. So seeing no questions of clarification in regards to the cell tower protocol, then, Councillor Miller.
Just given the fact that it is 50 meters in height, and I read some of the letters saying it's less than 100 meters from the nearest house. How close is the nearest residence?
Through the chair, I will look at that right now.
Prior to that presentation, or that computer's finished. Okay,
Through the chair, the house is about 70 meters from the tower.
Any follow-up? Come. Yeah. Okay, if there's no other questions for the planner, then we will maybe ask you back in the future. Thanks very much, Halima. We do have some submissions, if everybody's hopefully had a chance to read some of those submissions. If we can, the proponent for the planning, Lucas Cuff, if he'd like to speak to it. I see that he is online. Lucas, are you there, present? Everything's going smooth. You're on mute, Lucas, if you are trying to talk.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and committee. I just have a presentation regarding the proposed.
We can share your screen
Yes.
if you like.
I'm here.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you
Hello?
fine.
Is it muted?
Okay, yeah, we can hear you, Lucas. Yeah, we don't see a presentation yet, though. You need to share it yourself. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
You can begin at any time if you're ready.
Good evening, council members and members of the public. My name is Lucas Kov, and I'm working at Fontour International, representing Signum's interests in a proposed telecommunications tower at 525 Scenic Drive. Fontour is a planning consultancy company that specializes in telecommunication towers, and we have been hired by Signum to oversee the planning process for this application. Signum Wireless Towers Inc. is a third-party tower builder focusing on building towers without competition with other telecommunication companies. Mainly telecommunication towers allows for co-location, meaning that a number of carriers may locate their services on a single tower. This allows for the reduction of tower proliferation, which means having less telecommunication towers across an area. On the screen here is a little visual depiction of what it looks like to have a co-located towers versus multiple towers from multiple carriers. Now to give some background information on wireless networks. A wireless network can be thought of as a series of interconnected parts with base stations and antennas working together to create a network. When providing their services, these networks create coverage areas which provide telecommunication services. And then adequately placed, they provide continuous wireless services across an area. On the screen here, you can see a depiction of what a network looks like with the radius around individual towers showing their coverage area. However, these networks only service a fixed number of calls and data requests. If there is an increased number of calls, for instance, the network's capacity is reduced to provide service to the closest signals. To solve these problems and to provide adequate telecommunication services, these gaps need to be filled by constructing new telecommunication towers. On the slide here, it shows the same image of the last slide, but the coverage area is made smaller to show the reduction in network capacity, and the new towers which are placed in these setting gaps of coverage. We'll now move on to why build the tower and the location of the tower. Some purposes of wireless service towers include providing EMS, fire and police services, reception, voice and data, internet service, internet streaming, and for business needs, as an increasing number of people are working from home. To provide all these services, each carrier must have their own antenna system equipment. The county also has the ability to place its emergency service antennas on this tower. In this application, Signum is proposing a 15-meter self-support telecommunication tower within the county of Brant, the location of which you can see in the image at 525 Scenic Drive, St. George, Ontario, N0E1N0. Public consultation has been completed on our end with it starting November 9th, 2023 and concluding on December 8th, 2023, with the public meeting taking place online December 7th, 2023. The map on this slide demonstrates the existing telecommunication infrastructure within the area of the proposed tower, with the closest tower being approximately 3.21 kilometers northeast from the proposed tower, which is about a 200-meter guide tower in height, owned by ExploreNet and has Freedom Mobile equipment at about 118 meters in height. This tower is located at 364 McLean School Road. For public consultation, physical mail-out brochures were sent to 38 properties within the county's set radius for public consultation, which is 500 meters. In addition, a newspaper ad was placed in the Brant Expositor on November 9th. And finally, we had a notification sign installed in the frontage of the proposed property facing Scenic Drive. Here is a photo simulation completed from East River Road, approximately 106 meters looking southeast towards the tower. Here's another simulation completed from Scenic Drive, approximately 160 meters looking west towards the tower. Here's a photo simulation from the west side of the intersection of Scenic Drive and East River Road, approximately 155 meters looking east towards the tower. And here's another photo simulation completed from Scenic Drive, approximately 210 meters looking west towards the tower. I want to discuss Safety Code 6 and what it is. Safety Code 6 is maintained by Health Canada and is the standard that governs and limits the human exposure to electromagnetic fields for any broadcasting endeavor in Canada. It has first been published in 1979, being consistently revised. It also has been since revised in 2015. The RF exposure limits in Safety Code 6 are consistent with science-based limits used in other parts of the world, for example, the United States, the European Union, Japan, Australia, and New Zealand. This graphic here depicts what different sources release RF emissions and where they fall on the radio frequency spectrum. The left side being lower emissions and the right side showing higher emissions. Radio frequency emissions fall into two categories: non-ionizing energy, which is electromagnetic energy that does not break down the bonds between atoms and molecules, which means it does not break down the chemical bonds within cells and tissues. And then there's ionizing energy. This kind of energy has enough power to break down the bonds between atoms and molecules. You can see here from left to right where certain day-to-day items fall on the spectrum, with power lines being 60 Hz, phones being 700 megahertz, baby monitors being 900 megahertz, Wi-Fi being 5 gigahertz, and then gamma rays being at 1 zettahertz. The Safety Code 6 limit that has been chosen is already 50 times lower than the threshold for any potential adverse health effects. These limits are set well below the levels of all known potential adverse health effects and provide protection for all age groups, including children on a continuous basis, which means 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This means that if anyone, including a small child, was exposed to RF energy from multiple sources within the Safety Code 6 limits for 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, there would be no adverse health effects. Telecommunication equipment on towers only emit a fraction of what the Safety Code 6 limit is, so falls even lower than the threshold potential for adverse health effects. If you have more questions about Safety Code 6, they can be directed to Health Canada with the information provided here. This slide shows a graphical representation depicting a telecommunications tower's RF emission on a vertical plane. The legend shows what types of RF emissions are being emitted from towers, with the top being white and blue, being 1,000 to 10,000 times lower than the Safety Code 6 limit, to the bottom, which is red, which exceeds the Safety Code 6 limits. From the magnified image, you can see that the emissions only exceed the Safety Code 6 limits within 1 meter of the antenna installations. As the proposed tower is 50 meters in height, antenna systems will will be well above and beyond the distance, ensuring that there is no potential adverse health effects. The public consultation period began November 9th, 2023 and ended December 8th, 2023. Within that time, we held an online public meeting on Thursday, December 7th between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. We received complaints from 4 different community members during the 30-day consultation period via email, and received complaints from 3 different community members during the public meeting held on December 7th, 2023. The table above shows the type of comments, the number of comments received via email during the 30-day consultation period, and the number of comments/questions brought up during the information open house. There were several concerns regarding property values due to the proposed telecommunication tower. These concerns were addressed by providing information on the various market factors that exert a strong influence on the value of property. For example, market demand, tax levels, utility costs, etc. There has been a steady increase of towers across Canada, while over the past few decades, the price of real estate has only gone up. But correlation does not equal causation. Health and safety concerns were also addressed by sharing Health Canada's Safety Code 6 regulations, guidelines, and requirements, and its implications for telecommunication companies within Canada. We also provided website links and contact information for residents to reach out to Health Canada for more information. Aesthetics concerns were addressed through the use of photo simulations showcasing that the surrounding trees and other natural features screen a large portion of the proposed tower. Finally, many concerns regarding siting of the tower were brought up via email and during the public meeting. We addressed these concerns, ensuring the community that we in Signum have exhausted all of our other options for siting in this area of Brant. With the proposed location, Signum was able to follow the county's preferred siting protocol, locating the tower on municipal property, along with the requirement that essential infrastructure like cell towers, hydro poles, light standards, etc., though not the most attractive infrastructure, it is vital that they are placed where its uses are to enhance local communities. Wireless service in the County of Brant needs upgrading to serve current and future needs. This one tower will be able to accommodate up to 3 carriers, preventing tower proliferation in the County of Brant. Thank you for listening to our presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I am listening to this on YouTube because my Zoom audio wasn't working, so it is a little delayed. So bear with me for the questions and answers, if there are any.
Do we have any questions for the presenter? Councillor Bell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the presenter. My question is, why now do we need this tower when this area is essentially fully built out?
Well, because now that there's more people and residents in this area, and with the travel corridors there, telecommunication companies like Bell, Freedom, Rogers, they will all reach out to Signum and give them an area where there's a dead zone where they need more coverage for their users. So basically, there is a lack of coverage for our clients in this area, which is why they came to Signum to build the tower.
So if I may, Mr. Chair, do you have a map showing the dead zones?
I don't right now, but I can send that to Haley, who can send that to the councillors.
Is there any other questions for the presenter? Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to now declare the public meeting portion of this open. I'm going to ask 3 times if there are any questions from the public. I'm asking the first time, is there any questions from the public? Okay. Do we have anybody online? No, nobody online. I'm going to ask a second time if there's any questions from the public. Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to ask a third time if there's any questions from the public. And seeing none. So I'm going to ask now if we can, there is a motion that's been proposed, if we have a mover and a seconder for that motion. Moved by Councillor Coleman and seconded by Councillor Oakley. Okay. Councillor Chambers.
Just speaking to the motion, I guess, just to comment, the purpose of the meeting is to present information and to glean information from the public. Just a comment, if I was sitting in the audience trying to hear what was said and trying to see what is being presented, it's very, very difficult. I can't see that screen from where I'm sitting, and the acoustics are horrific. I couldn't really, without difficulty, hear the presentation. So I'm suggesting that in the future, if presentations like this are going to be presented on a screen where the print is very, very small, there should be at least something in the audience where they can have copies of this that they can follow along and be able to see what's being presented. And I'm going to suggest that the applicants be encouraged to attend in person because it is much easier to hear them at the podium and see them at the podium than a small square on a television screen that is very, very difficult to see. So going forward, I hope we can make some improvements because these are important information sessions, and I'm not being critical of this presentation in itself because others have the same consequences. But just in the future, I'm hoping that if we are having public meetings, the information presented at the public meetings can be seen and heard much better than this presentation was.
Okay. That's a good suggestion. If we could, Lucas, if you could forward that presentation to staff, and then we could forward to anybody that has any questions, would like to see it closer, that would be appreciated.
Of course. Yes.
Is that reasonable? Yeah, okay. Is there any other questions or comments? Okay. Seeing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor to receive? Anybody opposed? Motion is passed. That portion is closed now. The public meeting. So, do we have anything under number 8? So there's nothing under number 8. Now we're going to have a public hearing under the Planning Act and consider the staff recommendations. RPT 0164-24, technical amendments to comprehensive zoning bylaw 6116, housekeeping. Brandon Courtliff. Brandon, would you like to make your presentation?
Through the chair, thank you. I'm not going to make a formal presentation, but I just will clarify a few points. Most of the information is in your package in the report. So this public meeting is for a decision on this county housekeeping amendment. With this amendment, this particular housekeeping, we opened things up a little bit more to the public. I know that's been kind of a tough thing with housekeepings. So we did have an Engage Grant page available, and we did get some feedback, and that's in the package as well. Some of it was very high level and stuff we'll keep in mind for maybe when we do our new zoning bylaw, our new comprehensive zoning bylaw, but everything that we've received, we take that into account with stuff moving forward. There were a few kind of concerns about particularly the front yard landscaped open space. And just to kind of clarify that, there are 3 levels of regulation with that in our zoning bylaw currently. So we have the front yard landscaped open space area requirement, the one that we're taking out. And then we have an overall landscaping open space requirement, and we have a maximum driveway width requirement. So there still are requirements in place that will not allow them to pave an entire front yard. I just wanted to kind of clarify that for folks, because that seemed to be a point of contention with the public comments particularly. And again, we'll be looking at all of this stuff through the comprehensive zoning bylaw review. Again, that timing is dependent on when we hear back from the province on our new official plan. So with that, I will turn it back over to Councillor McAlpine, and if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, question for clarification, Councillor Pierce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Brandon. Good report. If I go to page, I guess it's page 53 in our package where you, it's the project report from Engage Grant. So I guess the first thing I'm going to say is something as important as this, and we only got 869. That's kind of discouraging. And I'm just trying to read this. So total visits, obviously that's any hit to the site. Could have been the same person 869 times, could have been, you know what I mean? And then if we get the max visitors a day. So, and you could tell by the graph, it looks as though when it first went up, there was a lot of hits on it, which is great. Now, when it's got engaged visitors, I'm assuming those are the visitor, or those are anybody that asked a question. Is that a true statement?
Correct.
Okay.
It's anyone, through the chair, it's anyone that engages with any of the tools on Engage Grant. So
Right.
whether they leave a comment or ask a question.
Okay, perfect. So informed visitors, is that responses back? Like, I'm trying to understand what all these are.
Yep. Through Councilor McAlpine, the informed visitors are ones who've visited the site and have clicked on a link or downloaded a document.
Okay.
So they haven't necessarily left any feedback, or they may have, but they're the ones who have clicked on a link to download something to receive more information.
Perfect. And then the aware visitors of 682, what's that?
That is anyone who has visited the site and hasn't taken any further action. So they may have visited an additional page on Engage Grant to see another project, but they didn't necessarily engage with this
Okay.
page.
I kind of thought that's what, but I just wanted, because somebody asked me a question on that, and it's like, I think that's what it is. Anybody like with the informed, I just wasn't sure if that was somebody that actually went down in through the documents. So in essence, we had 869 hits, and only 177 of those hits actually looked at the information that was given them.
Correct.
Well, I appreciate your efforts that you put into this anyway, and I think that's all the questions I have on that. Thank you.
Okay. Further questions? Councillor Bell, did you have a question? No? Okay. Okay. Seeing no further questions, we now open this to the public, and we'll ask a first time if there's any questions from the public in regards to this. I'm going to ask a second time if there's any questions from the public in regards to this app. And we'll ask a third time if there's any questions from the public. Okay. Seeing no questions, I guess, from the public, then we will close this portion of the public hearing. And if we could have a mover for this recommendation, Councillor Pierce, and second by Mayor Bailey. Okay. If there's any questions or comments in regards to this, Councillor Pierce.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I just kind of thought of this, and this is through to Brandon, if I could. Is there any way that we have on our site for Engage Grant that it can understand unique IPs that are hitting it?
Through the chair, I would have to look into that through our communications folks, but what I do know is that people sign up for an account and there is unique information in that account, so we can see where some of that information is coming from, which their locations. I believe people put in postal codes, for example, but we can look into that a bit further.
Right, because I don't mean to go on that, Mr. Chair, but like I say, I would be curious to know, is that 869 unique people that hit this? Because that would make me feel a little better anyway.
Yeah, okay. So we can definitely follow up with that.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Bell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Brandon. Brandon, I think in your world, a picture is worth 1,000 words. I'm looking at a comment from one of our residents who said, if I want to park on my front lawn, I should be able to. This is a good idea. Is it a good idea? And if it isn't a good idea, how can we illustrate it?
Through the chair, that question, I think, it depends a lot on what people want to do with their own properties. And we as a municipality can provide some direction on how we feel the right-of-way should look. We also know that we have some parking issues, namely with the sizes of our frontages, sizes of garages. So my job as a planner for the municipality is to try and balance all of the kind of competing objectives, I suppose. And we do feel that this particular change in the bylaw, while it won't necessarily allow people to pave their front yards completely, which we probably don't think is a great idea, it will open up some flexibility for people to widen their driveways enough to fit an additional vehicle on their own property. And we think that will provide at least a way to meet kind of in the middle, at least at this point, and then look into it a bit further. So it is a bit of a subjective question, in my opinion, but hopefully that kind of helps answer it.
Well, I'll go back, if I may, Mr. Chair, to my original comment that if you could illustrate it, and say what is permitted and what is not. I mean, I read this absolutely as it's written. The guy is going to be happy to put a vehicle on the grassed part of his front yard. For me, a lawn is grassed area. It's not paved area. Are you saying that that is permissible under the changes that you're proposing?
Through the chair, no. So there are still requirements in place that look after that in various bylaws, and that's something we can work very closely with our communications folks on and have been. There are brochures that kind of explain some of the parking situations, so we'll make sure that that is very clear, and maybe do another social media push to let people know what is and isn't permissible for parking in on their property.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, we do have a motion on the floor. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Okay. All those against? It's passed unanimously. No consent items? No staff reports? We have one committee report from the Agricultural Advisory Committee report of January 29th, 2024. If we could have a motion to approve that. Moved by Councillor Coleman, second by Councillor Howes. Is there any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Passed. No communications? No other business? Okay. And there's nothing in camera, so the next meeting is March the 12th, 2024. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Oakley. Adjourn.